Good morning. We're going to cyber up St. Louis. And also, did you know Social Security is running out of money? Come on back. Let's find out how we can fix that situation. Hi, and welcome to City Corner. I'm Robin Boyce, and in the studios with me today is Mr. Tony Bryan, who is Executive Director of CyberUp. CyberUp, or We CyberUp. Tell us a little bit more about this organization, whose mission is to probably place a lot more people in cybersecurity or in that internet type IT field here in the St. Louis area. I understand that there are lots of positions available, but not enough people to cover them?
There is. So our mission at CyberUp is pretty simple. Our mission is to close the cybersecurity skills gap by training the workforce of today and inspiring the workforce of tomorrow. And so we do that through two programs. Our first program, and really our flagship that we're proud to say was one of the first in the country started, was our Department of Labor Registered Apprenticeship Program.
Okay.
So it's taking 18-year-old individuals who may not have an opportunity to go to college or what would be considered non-traditional candidates. Training them into cybersecurity careers and getting them jobs where they have the opportunity to earn while they learn on the job.
Okay, so you had said there's two programs. Tell us about the other program as well.
So the second is really a longer term approach. It's important for us to see that middle school and high school students are seeing this as a career path and an opportunity, and just exposing them to the world of technology. So we do that through camps, clubs, and competitions in hopes that they're able to, if they do have the means to go to college, they're attending lots of great institutions that are here in our region, or if college is not an opportunity, they can then come to our apprenticeship program.
Excellent. So who are some of your partners here in the St. Louis area with reference to businesses or other agencies that may be involved that are working with you?
Great. So we've placed quite a few apprentices here locally. So our newest one that we're really excited about is going to be Centene, which is obviously a very large employer here.
Excellent. Yes.
But we currently have apprentices placed at Bayer, Peabody Energy, some smaller companies like Master Clock. They do precision timing devices in St. Charles County, make clocks for airports and NASA. So really important stuff to protect if you think about the complexity of time. And then we've also placed, at Neighbors here for St. Louis Science Center. So we're kind of a little bit all over the place with our placements. Candidates, as soon as they finish their apprenticeship, the majority of them are hired on full time for staff from that, which is fantastic. And we're getting ready.
Excellent. So how many students, first off, how long are the courses or these sessions that you might have with a group of students, and how many students per session would it take for you to move into your programming?
Yeah, great question. So we've worked really hard to build our program around meeting individuals where they're at. And so our original standards that are submitted and we still implement through Department of Labor is combining the three components of every apprenticeship. If I'm a carpenter or if I am a cybersecurity analyst apprentice, the three things that I'm going to have are all consistent. So that is a job, so I'm completing some level of on-the-job training and getting paid. There's curriculum that I'm learning, and then there's a mentorship aspect to that. So if I'm a carpenter, and I'm going to use, just kind of generality. So if I'm a carpenter, I work my first year, my apprenticeship is 12 months long. I'm employed for 6 months doing stuff, and over the summer I do my learning at the carpenter apprenticeship training program. So for us, we're a little different. We're not a 4 or 5 year apprenticeship where we condense that down to 2,000 hours. So generally takes an individual about a year. Then they complete 580 hours of online coursework that has a couple different tracks that are really industry specific. So network engineering, security engineering, pen testing, and then also a SOC analyst, security operations center analyst. So really relevant curriculum they're at. And then for our mentorship, we partner people up in battle buddies. I'm an Army guy, so generally love, I think there's strength in numbers. If you're going through something and I'm going through something, we can share those experiences and help one another grow and be better.
Gotcha.
So to meet other individuals where they're at. We have a good sized bench, and our candidates currently range between 19 and 66.
Okay.
So
really, candidates
that we're looking to place. So 19 to 66. Some have master's degrees, some have bachelor's degrees, and then others have GEDs. So there are very different starting points for every one of those individuals. So for those that need a little extra support or maybe some additional training prior to placement, we partner with the state of Missouri, and they funded the creation of a pre-apprenticeship program for us. So that takes those individuals through an 8-week in-class curriculum for about 72 hours that provides them really 3 kind of core competencies. So workplace readiness skills, so helping them prepare resumes, doing LinkedIn, and really on the technical interview, because that is very different than just normal interview you'd have with somebody. We cover IT fundamentals, so they do earn a certification through that. But it's really, how do you talk computer? How are you, what are the technical terms? So when somebody gets in, they can assimilate into that corporate environment a little bit quicker. And then we do a NIST audit. So NIST framework, most folks are familiar with like PCI, which is in the banking world, or HIPAA, which is in healthcare world.
Yes.
Those are government standards that are put out that you have to do, X, A through Z things to protect that data.
Yes.
So the NIST framework was the first kind of broad standardization of security best practices for companies to implement. So it's a really auditable concept where any business, small or large, has the ability to come in, do that compliance, and then see where they're at a moment of time, and then make assessments of where they want to get better at and to improve their security posture.
So looking at the IT world now, that's still a growing kind of field that people are learning new things about. Am I correct? Because from a legal standpoint, for example, from positioning standpoint, like the positions and titles and names are changing because it's a new field, basically.
Correct. Yes.
So a lot of businesses, I can imagine, corporations that you work with, even government folks that you deal with, are now looking at this changing, waving field. So they're saying, we need people. So how do you go about recruiting those folks to fill those positions?
So we've been really fortunate to have a great subject, right? It's, to your point, they're every day, good or bad, right? There are breaches that are happening that are impacting a lot of people's lives.
Because we're talking security here,
correct,
right? Okay.
Correct. So you think of your own personal information that may have been leaked or breached somewhere, and then now we have things like identity theft and all of these other components that exist. So there's a lot of relevance, I think, just from exposure. And so we've had a lot of interest just in the region for those opportunities. Moms, grandmas, dads, uncles, aunts say, I think my child would be a great fit for this program. So we've had a lot of referrals in that. So the recruitment for us hasn't been overly hard as of yet. And I'll knock on some wood for that. So that way, that we continue that trend. Probably the biggest, I won't say the biggest disconnect, but one of the things that we're really doing is just really advocating for employers to hire that non-traditional candidate, because it is different, right? It's like we've been very accustomed to, I attend college, I get my 4-year degree,
Got you. Okay.
I get my job. So now if I'm asking an employer to take somebody who's 19, that doesn't have that traditional background, that there's some extra work that's going to come into that, but it's definitely worth it in the end because that person is loyal, appreciative of the opportunity, and in our mind and our experience is going to work really hard because they're just happy to be there and doing something that.
So I was going to ask you, you said non-traditional kind of candidate. So this is an individual who may not necessarily felt like they fit in college.
Correct.
And that they know that they need to work and take care of themselves. But CyberUp presents an opportunity to have a really decent kind of a career.
Yes, for sure. I mean, the salaries are great.
Yeah.
So we're, and I think from a market perspective, if you look at just opportunities. So currently today, we are really fortunate to have a great website that is made by the federal government.
I love it. It's a lot of fun.
Thanks.
A lot of fun going on there. You learn so much about the mission statement, getting a chance to look at your board members. These are people who have a wide variety of background that really makes a difference for what you're trying to do. But go ahead.
Yeah, we have a great board, and they've been super supportive of our work. But cyberseek.org is a really neat tool that you can you pop into it and it'll give you a list of current openings. You could do it by state, city, or even by metropolitan areas. So in St. Louis, there are currently right around 4,500 jobs that are currently
4,500 jobs available right now in
St. Louis.
cybersecurity.
In the metropolitan St. Louis area.
In the metro area.
Yeah, so there's a lot of opportunity. That number nationally is forecasted to grow to about 1.5 million by 2021. So we're short.
That's around the corner.
It's not far away.
No.
And so it's really important that we do look at alternative ways to get individuals into that, because we have to grow the talent pipeline.
Yes.
So that's where our youth engagement comes in. If we do a really good job and we inspire that kid to go to, St. Louis Community College or Maryville University or Webster University, or Fontbonne, right? Or even if we hit in Illinois, you've got SWIC, Southwest Illinois College, is doing really great stuff in technology. So if we're getting those students inspired to attend college, then their pool is growing. And then if we're able to get more and more employers to hire apprentices, then our numbers grow. I've really have noodled this idea of of a pledge, right? So if there are 4,500 jobs that are available, our goal for this year is to get 50 apprentices hired.
Okay.
So we will account for a little more than 1% of the placement.
Okay.
So I think asking employers to come on board with this idea of a 5%. I agree as company X to hire 5% of my staff and through non-traditional means or non-traditional pathways. Well, then our number goes from 50 to 225.
Sure.
If we're increasing that number of college students, and I have no math behind this, but I would say probably between 225 and 250 seniors are graduating from a college program right now. So collectively, we're producing 450, 500 students a year for 4,500 jobs. So in 9 years, we close that gap, assuming there's no more growth. So that's a big hurdle for us to overcome. So just trying to figure out what is that right way to grow it and combining.
It looks like you've got the formula together.
We do.
And you're creating it as you go
For sure.
along, which really makes a difference. And the pool, the talent, the folk who want to work are there.
Correct.
And so the age groups, again, you're working with folks from 19 to 66, you said?
Right now we're 19 to 66 with our
So
bench. So
there's jobs out there for folks who are retirees or
Yes.
folks who are looking to do something a little bit different, because jobs are actually looking for folks who have excellent talent, who may be mature. And they're also a great opportunity for young people who feel like, I don't know what I want to do, but I can go somewhere. Thank you so much for coming in and talking with us
appreciate
about
you having us, for
We
sure.
CyberUp, and I'd love to have you back on again to talk about it, and love to talk to some of the students as well.
Absolutely.
Thank
I'm sure
you
they'd love
so
to come
much.
and
I
hang out.
really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Tony.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. And we will be right back after these messages.
Selfie. Nailed it.
Operation Wonder Park is a go!
There's nothing more powerful than imagination. But don't just imagine. Use STEM to change the world.
Who's with me?
Oh, it's gonna hurt tomorrow.
If she can STEM, so can you. Find out more at She Can STEM.
Hi, back in the studios. I'm Robin Boyce for City Corner, and with me right now is Miss Patricia Bingham from Bingham Consultants. And Patricia decided some time ago, when a family member was going through some different changes with reference to retirement and really feeling better about what they were receiving with reference to insurances and some other things, decided to get things started and help folks out when it comes to the insanity that we're looking at right now. I couldn't believe it. I saw this headline that came out that said Social Security is running out of money. Benefits are on track to be reduced by 2035. What's going on, Pat? What's happened?
Well, a lot of different things have happened. You've got more baby boomers that are aging in than who are working to support the older people coming out of the system.
Okay.
So, I mean, in short term, we're getting older and it's more baby boomers than maybe the millenniums or the Gen Zs as they're called.
X's and the Zs.
X, Y's, and Zs as they're called.
Yes.
But the younger generations are coming in and they're sometimes choosing different paths. They're going to school longer.
Staying home with
they're
mom and dad
staying home
longer.
with mom and dad longer. They're, and so they're not necessarily, or they're entrepreneurs. They're
Yes.
choosing different paths. So the intake of income is not there.
Okay.
But the other side of the coin is it's not something that can't be funded.
Right.
So we as the older adults and mostly the voters of America, we need to start picking people to support the changes
when it
that
comes
are
to
needed
voting and everything. I mean, because this is amazing. I had no idea that Medicare is pointed toward insolvency by possibly 2026 if something's not done in Congress. Also, Social Security, we're looking at becoming insolvent by 2035. Now, these are some stats. I probably should have had these, sent these in and have these placed out so that viewers could look at this. But Social Security is the government's largest program, and like 45% of the government's budget. Had no idea about that. Costing, at this date, about $853 billion at last year, and another $147 billion in disability benefits, okay? That's Social Security. Then there's Medicare, which takes care of hospitals, outpatient care, prescription drugs, benefits totaling about $740 billion, okay? So that has to be funded through payroll taxes and other things, and they're talking about the possibilities of raising a payroll tax then?
Yes, they're talking about raising it. That's one of the avenues that they're talking about. But I think it's more or less they need to allocate more monies to that from other fundings. I tried to kind of look up some things and try to come up with some ideas that might help, but you're also looking at Social Security doesn't just fund your seniors. It doesn't just fund your Medicare. Some of that money is funding kids of deceased parents.
Okay, yes. You forget
some of that
about
money,
those things, yeah.
Is funding disabled children that are being born. We talk about abortion and we talk about the right to choose, but sometimes if a parent doesn't have the right to choose when it comes to abortion, and I'm not trying to go there, but that child, if it's born disabled or mentally impaired at some point, that child goes on Medicare. It goes into the system and gets the parent's Social Security. Be that parent a working parent that maybe worked a nominal job or maybe a job that paid, a nice salary. That child becomes a ward of the Social Security system. Okay. So when we look at the aspects of Social Security and where the money is going, that money is going to a lot of areas that just doesn't entail senior citizens and retirement.
It's not just a retiree fund?
No.
Okay.
No. You've got some of it, immigrations. We've got people who come here that are immigrants, and if they work in the system a certain number of hours, they are entitled to Social Security. Now, they may not have paid all their life, and then maybe they have. But that all forms our Social Security. we're talking widowers.
Yes.
You know, if you've been married to a person 10 years or better,
Yes.
at least a minimum of 10 years, even though they may have married someone else, you are entitled to Social Security
Exactly.
from them.
Exactly.
So you've got a lot of components in that equation that these items have to be funded. And so as we get more people into the system, as the baby boomers get older, the system gets bigger, but we don't have an influx of younger people paying into that system.
Right.
So it's going to depend on our legislators
Right.
to actually look at that and say, okay, where can we get these funds from? Can we take some money from certain taxes? Can we start changing the way immigration is done?
Okay.
In terms of when an immigrant comes here, they are entitled to certain benefits. Medicaid, they come in and they can get food stamps. They can get assistance to live for a certain period of time. All of that is factored in.
Yes, it is.
To that equation. So unless we're going to divide some of those equations and just focus on senior citizens, maybe spouses of deceased seniors,
Right.
Maybe children, then we're going to have to find funds someplace else.
Somewhere, and that takes, those are legislative actions. That it would. This article also said that the 3 cabinet heads that look over Social Security, those acting commissioners, I said taking action sooner rather than later is so important for Congress to get really busy and start looking at doing some different things with Social Security and getting it funded. Some questions about Social Security. We talked about why Social Security is running out of money.
Yes.
You've got a lot more of baby boomers who are retiring, who are going in, and of course you got a whole plethora of other things that are going on with reference to people who need Social Security for disability, other things that come up. Question, does this mean that I won't be paid a retirement benefit if we run out of money?
Well, that's possible. I mean, right now,
Or will
no.
we be looking at a reduction probably?
Well, you could possibly, that could take a number of forms. You could be looking at a reduction. You could be looking at no funding. You know, if the state decides that they stop, then they stop. Now, whether people will allow them to stop making those payments to them, that's a whole nother issue.
Now, that's when voters need to get busy,
That's
right?
when voters should be busy before
Right now,
that.
right
Not
now,
right
they should
now.
be busy talking to their congressmen,
Talking
to
to
their,
the
their U.S. Senate. And we're talking federal folk.
Federal folks.
Really talking to them about getting really busy. Those are the questions at some of these town hall meetings that should be asked of individuals, because we're looking at a crash here.
We're looking at a crash, a major crash. And if you look at the way companies are no longer paying pensions anymore, they're depending more and more on individuals funding their own retirement through 401s, annuities, whatever investment that they can set aside on their own.
And that's what you consult people about, as well as looking at getting into those kinds of programs before retirement?
Exactly. Anyone who has a 401, if their job is offering it, they need to take it upon themselves to join it.
Even if it's a fund that the job offers and you are not even getting a matching situation from your employer, like a 457B or some of the other funds that are available through nonprofit organizations.
Exactly, because that's your retirement funds, and that's what you're going to need to look for. You're going to need to live on later on in life. Now, if you take the time and say, well, okay, Social Security, but Social Security might not be there. So if it's not there and you don't have a 401 and you haven't been saving, you don't have the investments that maybe one should, possibly look into, who takes care of you?
Right. There you go. And now you got to start looking at disability for the future, or somewhere where you have dollars to take care of.
Well, you may not have disability, because disability is tied to Social Security.
Wow.
So if you don't have those components there, and you don't have 401, you don't have investments, you don't have savings, you have nothing. So that means that you could be 90 at McDonald's.
Wow.
Okay, or you could be 90 at your daughters or your sons
Right.
or your cousins. You can be indigent. You could be homeless.
Right.
Because some of our homeless, that could be the cost.
Wow.
That they paid.
It's a lot more different. The difference between, explain really quickly, we've got a few more minutes left in the program. Retiring at 62, full retirement age, if you were born before 1953, and yeah, before 1953, you're talking about 66, 67 retirement, or at 70. The differences between those two ages there, right quick. Those three ages, really.
Okay. One can retire at 62. But when they do that, then they don't get what they call full retirement.
So they have a reduced retirement, reduced Social Security payments that they will be receiving.
Exactly.
For the rest of their life.
For the rest of their
And
lives.
that doesn't change.
Doesn't change. They will get, it's something like, and it averages out about $300 and some odd dollars. That is minus from
okay, when you're looking at cash.
When you're looking at cash. If you go into socialsecurity.gov, you can go there and put in your information and set up your account. When you set up that account, you can look at, if I retire at 66, because the retirement, the age that's considered full retirement is 66. If it's after 55, if you were born after 55, then it becomes 66 in 2 months, 66 in 3 months, depending on the month that you were born or the year. Okay, at 66, a person gets what they call full retirement. So that could be like $2,000. But in the event that I decide I'm going at 62, then that may become $1,700.
Okay.
Roundabout.
All
okay,
right.
because
But
this
if
is
you
averaged
decide
out.
to hang on in there to 70,
If you decide to hang on in there to 70, once you reach 66, and you don't take your Social Security,
don't take Social
it
Security.
grows at 8% each year thereafter up until you get to age 70.
Wow.
70, you have to take your Social Security. There's no way around it. So
Wow.
you've increased your benefits.
so you've increased your benefits at 70. We've got to have you back on again. We've got to close out this program with so much information about Social Security and retirement. But they can catch you at Bingham and Consultants, Bingham Consultants, and learn more about some of the alternatives that they have with reference to Social Security.
Yes.
Because we're looking at a crisis situation. It has to
yes.
change. And
Oh,
people
yes.
have to remember, vote, vote, vote. Those who are in office that you put in there, make sure you give them a call and tell them, hey, you got to change something here, do something different about this.
I'm concerned.
Yeah,
and
we all
let them
are.
know.
Thank you, Ms. Pat, for coming in and talking
You're
with us. I
welcome.
appreciate you so much. We're going to have you back. We'll have a gaggle of people on. And we want to thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time here on City Corner. I'm Robin Boyce.